and take an opportunity to once again say welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for the January 2021 conversation with the lovely Sue Anderson. And I'm so glad that you are our guest this month, Sue. And yeah, I love the topic. Hope and love and hope in a time of crisis. So I can't even remember when we first met, probably around the same time, because somehow I knew about the hand luggage thing and St. Paul's, and I haven't actually seen you in the flesh for quite a while, but I spent some lovely times with you, and not least in your house in Saltburn when you were there. Yeah. And so I'm not really going to say very much more. I'm going to hand it over to you, Sue, to say whatever you want to say. Normally, the call is quite interactive. Feel free to call on people if you want to, or anybody has questions or anything to share, please come in. I will suggest that you maybe mute yourself while Sue's talking, but do just unmute yourself if you want to come in. It's only for the background noise and the recording. Okay. So, Sue, over to you.
Oh, fantastic. So I have really got the freedom of it. Excellent. Well, I think when we were talking about a subject, I was thinking at this moment in time, particularly for me, the idea of love being something that's within us, but all around us, has been something that's guided me through this whole pandemic, because my guess is, like everybody, it's been a hell of a year one way or another. And the amount of times that I feel like I've had to call on that quite deeply has been really interesting, because the situation that I found myself in was I was visiting my mother-in-law. And overnight, this is in the UK, overnight, I became a carer 24/7. She's 97-year-old. And, I was completely in my comfort zone. And, it's kind of, it was just not anything I was used to. And, I've known the lady dearly for 30 years. But I just never expected to, with my partner, be caring. And I think for the 6 months that we cared for her, there was a lot of love in the house. And that was really interesting, because there was times when she was suffering. And when I say suffering, it wasn't so much in pain, but sometimes like she was just low. And with that came quite a lot of criticism. And it was that kind of acting out that was quite interesting, because, something might have been said that was quite harsh to me or my partner. And my fear was, oh my goodness, I'll get to a point here and I'll feel very resentful. And how can you care for somebody, in that kind of way? And what was really lovely, I was brought up a Catholic, and I never understood things like the Lord's Prayer and stuff like that. And one day, it came to me out of the blue that if I had any ill thoughts towards her, I forgive myself. And the next thing I found myself doing was forgiving her, because I realized that she was in a suffering. And what that allowed to happen was everything to collapse and for love to take hold again. And it felt like magic. So that whole prayer of forgive them that trespass against you, I started to understand it. I don't practice my faith anymore. But the spiritual elements of not just that, but lots of other faiths that I've got interests in, it was really interesting, Christian, really interesting. And we've just managed to hold that space beautifully. So love melted everything. And it made me think a lot about it, because we are a vessel and we are made up of love. And love is all around us all of the time. And the times that we don't see that, it's almost like not being in touch with ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I think for me as well, what I'd realised with that as well, that self-love is really important. It's a bit like the oxygen mask, the health that's required to be able to hold out your arms and, let love out and let love in. A bit like breathing, really.
Yeah.
And that was such a special bit of learning for me, really. It meant something. And the other kind of things, it's I found a little card I'd had given to me a lot of years ago, because I'd said on here as well that I wanted to talk about hope. And the card says, hope is being able to see that there is light despite all the darkness.
Mm.
And it was Desmond Tutu. It's kind of like, how do you see something when clouds are in the way, or darkness is in the way, or some depressive thinking or resentment, whatever you want to call it, things that can clag and get in our way. And then I look around at nature, and it's given me examples of love, of gentleness, of all the things that I am, that you are. And it's those bits of light that kind of make my heart lighter, make my heart sing. And I feel more open and connected to whatever is required, really.
And that's so lovely, Sue, and it's so extraordinary, because just before this call, I've had quite a busy few days. It's been really enjoyable. I've got a lot of things that needed to be done, tasks and fixing things, and it's it's been. But I had a couple of hours before the call, and I was just lying on the couch watching This Is Us on Netflix or something, and I went to that exact place. I was thinking, this is so sort of cozy, but I don't mean it. I'm not just talking about physically cozy. I'm talking about, that deep connection, that deep connection with wonder and contentment and love. Yeah, love, I should say. And in the program I was watching, there was a bit where the one person's bereaved, and someone close to them says, "Oh, I in these moments I walk with Jesus," and that's not my understanding of spirituality. I'm not knocking anybody else, but I can fully get what she's referring to. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not making anybody else wrong. It's just that it's the three principles has given me something even simpler. That is, feeling love and connected and deeply peaceful for no good reason at all. And that is always there every time that the clutter falls away, the internal clutter falls away. Yeah, lovely.
Absolutely. And I think for me, like just before everybody come on the call, I was telling Christian that I had a really bad week last week, and it just felt like a haze had come over me, and I couldn't move it. I couldn't move it for the life of me. And the great thing about me is my partner knows this understanding, and literally said, I'm not going to give any of your thinking any attention. Let's go out for a walk. Let's go out for a car picnic. You can do the cooking. And it was brilliant, because it allowed me to just have the permission to just be, to just really be, and let it pass, observe something and let it pass, knowing that you know, I'll come out the other side of this. And I have. And what was really beautiful was we went on a walk, and we were on this little path in a wood, and these snowdrops had just popped up. Oh, Christian, they filled my heart. It was always kind of that whole element of underneath everything, something's growing, something's being, and little signs of things like that. It just lifted. Well, it wasn't that lifted things away. It just felt like I'd opened. The ground was opening. The flowers and the blossoms and different things were just starting to unfold. And it was just a brilliant reminder. And, you know, it's been really interesting for me because, you know, within where I've been locked down as well, I haven't had much contact with family and friends, only over Zoom. And, you know, it's been interesting, like finding out what virtual love looks like as well. And looking at, you know, everybody's faces here is really beautiful. Because when you look, there was a lovely thing in Les Mis, the film and the musical, which said about when you're looking into somebody's face, you look at them, it's like looking at love. You're looking in the face of God, and not in the religious sense, but in the spiritual sense. And that's why I think for me, opening and just being the vessel for love is something that's really hopeful.
Mm.
And it's a bit, you know, just thinking about what I don't know what it's like being like for everybody else with the pandemic, but you know, the heart monitor, when it goes up and down and up and down, it's almost like, you know, we breathe in and out, and you know, certainly when I feel love, I breathe out more, I expand more. You know, and when something else is going on, like some of that thinking coming in, or feeling fear, or feeling depressed or low, it's like closing down. So that's made a big difference, just understanding that whole physical feeling of what that looks like, feels like.
Yeah. There was right from the get-go, when I came across the principles, there was something about the recognition and acceptance that as humans we ebb and flow, or we expand and contract, or whatever you want to. And although there is a side benefit, I think, of understanding the principles, which means it's much more peace of mind and contentment, nobody has ever suggested to me that the contraction and expansion, or the ebb and flow, is a bad thing or something to get rid of. And I've loved that, you know, because it comes back to the other thing you said about, I don't know that forgiveness is even the right word, but acceptance of self, acceptance that this is who we're meant to be. And as someone who'd strived for decades before that to be something other than what I was, it was such a relief to just think, oh yeah, I'm already there doing ebb and flow, and if that's all that ever happens for the rest of my life, that's good enough. You know?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, I've been lucky enough in my life to get a real sense of love. I had a beautiful Irish grandmother, and you know, the whole idea of you'd come home and she'd give you some food, and if you had a friend with you, she'd give them some food. And like there was lots of beautiful ways that she would show love. And she would sit with me for hours and talk to me about different things. And she was really good at growing vegetables and things like that. And she'd take the time out and she'd bake with me. If that's not being surrounded by love, I don't know what is. And it's reminded me, I've done some banana cakes this week, and it was, I don't know about you, but when I like cooking, I love cooking, I put love in there, even if it's something really simple. And some people say to me sometimes, oh, that tasted fantastic. And there's no different ingredients. I just put some love in there.
Yeah, again, my son and his girlfriend are staying with me at the moment, and just until Friday when they moved into their new house. But so we've been cooking together, you know, taking it turnabout roughly, and the last couple of nights I've noticed that very thing and it reminded me of the thing that Sid saying, you know, he would have a cup of tea and he'd just say it's the best cup of tea ever. And it's felt like that, you know. You know, both of us had done quite simple meals that weren't hugely effortful or anything, but I was just thinking, this is delicious. This is absolutely delicious. Yeah,
absolutely. And I truly think, Christian, that feels like being in the moment. It's enjoying what's there. And you know, my heart goes out to a lot of people, depending on their situations, that, you know, the whole thing about just enjoying that moment, that's all we've got. That's all we've got.
Yeah.
And that's what the principles and the understanding and other things that I could point to in my life, that moment is all we've got. And you know, I spoke a little bit about my Irish grandmother, but I've done a lot of work in loads of communities all of my life. And from that early teachings of my grandmother, I always took love into all of the jobs that I've had, all the communities that I've been into, all the children and young people I've worked with. And every time it's just been a dream. You know, I'm not saying there's not been challenges, but when you take something like that in to anywhere, housing estates that I've had to work in, youth clubs, everywhere, magic happens. Because you believe that, because you are that, the magic happens. And I don't know how other people feel about that, but certainly, you know, it's worked a treat for me, no matter what. And even, you know, when I heard this understanding and I wanted to share it, you know, it gave me so much peace. I wanted other people to have it, but it was almost like I knew I had to settle myself so people wanted a piece of something, of a mirror that they could see in me. It's like I know that place. And there was a beautiful parent in one of the schools that I worked in. And partway through a little course that I did, she stood up and she said to me, "This has got nothing to do with you, Sue, has it?" And I went, "No." She said, it's all about me, isn't it? And I said, "Yes." And there was something there, Christy, there was something she saw deep in her that she could touch.
And That's delightful, but also I think that you and your partner Bernie, you are both such amazing examples of that love. It makes it very easy for people to go there. You reflect something. You are very powerful mirrors, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky enough. I've been with my partner for 30 years, and it's not anything to do with a medal or anything, because it amazes me. We've reflected on that throughout this pandemic because we've been around each other 24/7, and I guess it's hard to put it into words sometimes, Christian. It's not hanging things on people. Like the idea of intimacy, for instance, is into me, I see. So when I kind of I'm with my partner, it's that stuff about looking back at yourself. And there's another lovely book that I like called The Prophet. I can't remember the particular section in it, but it talks about being two pillars, not pillows in bed, pillars. And it talks about being able to be separate, but there's a strength in that. So we've got a lovely saying, I'll look after me for you if you look after you for me. And what that means is there's no responsibility. I don't have to make somebody else happy and they don't have to make me happy. I'm responsible for it. And I think, even talking about that, within the pandemic for people, it's like we've needed to look within to find the strength, to find the love, to keep ourselves well, so that we can support other people. Whether that's family, children, however we found ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody's got any questions. Certainly for me, the other thing I'd say, Christian, is I've always understood love because I've always been surrounded by it. But I did a beautiful workshop a couple of years back with Jan and Chipman. And it was about relationships. And it was over 2 or 3 days. And you know what? I cannot remember a thing that they said. But the love that I've got for myself and for other people is limitless. It's so deep and so profound and so... It's out of this world, Christine. That's the only thing I can say. And I could almost say I don't know how that happened, but I do, because I feel like that's all of us. And it will get us through this crisis. It really, really will. It's the tonic, it's the medicine, it's everything that we need.
Yeah. Would anybody like to come in at the moment? Does anybody like to ask Sue, because she's got a very wide experience, and I know there are some others in the call that are involved in the community work, which has been, I guess, sort of central to what you've done, Sue, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I've got some lovely little stories. I'm very happy to take questions, but the place that I did my community work in Middlesbrough in the northeast of England, I worked at a community centre, and it was in a multicultural area. And I offered this little course about the principles. And I remember somebody phoning me up and saying, you know, what do you call the course? And luckily I had Sid Banks' book, and I said, oh, Second Chance. So we called it Second Chance, and it was literally in front of me. And over the time I was there, we opened it up to the community, and was a whole plethora of different people that come along, men, women, older, younger. We had Bangladeshi, Pakistani, we had a German lady, some Eastern Europeans, a gentleman from Iraq. Oh, you name it. We had the works there. And it was beautiful, because the whole thing for me was just having a loving space. As soon as somebody engaged, I didn't put my arms around them, but there were, if you can imagine it virtually, my arms were always around them. And they gently come into that space and started to listen to different bits of information. And as soon as they started to see the mirror, the seed was planted. It was like the spark was alight again. It was beautiful. And I always felt quite humbled by it, because I would look around the room at the different people, and if they'd come in with any judgments initially in the group, there was nothing there. Like, everything dropped away. There was no judgments. There was no, I'm not helping that person, or I'm not, it was amazing. It never ceased to amaze me. And I remember a gentleman reading the Quran at the time. It must have been Ramadan. And he said to me, you know, I'm reading the Quran and stuff at the moment too, and this, that, and the other. And he said to me, do you know what? He said, that Sid Banks says everything in the Quran in three words. And that was a young Asian man, and I was quite blown away by that. It was like, wow. And he was talking, you know, he's talking about thought, he was talking about mind, and he was talking about consciousness. But the biggest thing as well he was talking about was love. Mm. And, you know, it happened time after time. I remember you know, we had police officers, we had people from the job centre come in. And after the people from the job centre came, they'd send people along. And I remember a young woman coming, and she had a parka, an anorak, and she had a hood on. And she used to sit in the class, and she used to fold her arms and go, I don't want to be here. And I used to think, God bless her. And at that point, it was like, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to love her. And as the weeks unfolded, it was the hood came off, the smile came on the face, the sparkle came in the eyes. And I remember her saying at the end, can I tell the job centre that this is on till another 6 weeks? So it was kind of, I don't know, it's just something opened, and everybody could see it in the group, and everybody held that space together, and it was stonking.
Good for you, Sue. Good for you.
Yeah, and I've been lucky enough because my mum did my couple of courses. So my mum's 87, and I've shared this information with her, and a woman that's loved me all her life and supported me. And I remember just talking about different things, a bit like we are on this conversation now. And I could see my mum looking at me, but it was different to how she'd looked at me. I'd never noticed this look before. And after the class had finished, she just said, She didn't come over. She just like mouthed it. She said to me, "I love you." But it was deeper, Christian, deeper than I'd heard it ever before. And it was just, once again, she saw something. So it wasn't just about me, it was about her.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I think that's when I go back to when you really look and you really see people, you're looking at God, whatever your God is, spirit, universe, Allah, whatever, you are looking in the face of love.
Mm.
And moments in this whole pandemic, if you were feeling disconnected with you, your best mate, when you look in the mirror, has been with you all of your life.
Mm.
You look at him, her, being there.
Close the door.
All of your life. You look into your eyes. Eyes are the windows to the soul. And if there's some sadness or something, you'll realize that the strength is within. The strength and the beauty is within. You are love. You always have been. You always will be.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's funny, Sue, because I can remember years and years ago. I mean, it must be 30 years ago. You know, I'm being on a retreat, maybe more, and it was in the context of recovery, which was, you know, my thing, and this priest was running it, and I was in the middle of a big kind of carry on in my life, you know, big major sort of financial problem, and in the middle of it, at one point, the priest was doing a session, and he said, you know, the thing is, just forget all the debating and the you know, the arguing and the intellectual sort of questioning, and just know that God needs you and God wants you and God loves you exactly as you are. And it was a very powerful moment, you know, just went, because it had that, you know, that I had that kind of heart-opening moment that you describe, but it was transient. I mean, it you know, it didn't, not just moments, you know, I left the retreat in a completely different place than I'd come in, but I didn't really have a, you know, a faith in that God, and I didn't know how to get back there. And I think that one of the marvelous things about Sid's work for me is there's a kind of explanation of what's going on, and somehow that has made the same space, whatever language you use for it, much more accessible, much more of the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You are it's the whole thing for me. It is that we're a vessel. Our soul is more than this. Our soul is love. Our soul is hope. Our soul is the light. No, it's the nature of us. It is nature. It is the universe. And that's for me is when you really get a sense of what love is. It's vast, it's infinite, it's deep. And it's, you know, it's those moments when you touch your soul. In form, in this lifetime. Yeah. And to give love, you receive love. And that, you know, that could be something really simple. It could be caring for a small plant. It could be caring for a pet. It could be baking a cake. It just is. It just is.
Yeah.
I was giggling today as well because, you know, I don't know anybody that doesn't like a love song. And sometimes you just find, you can find yourself singing. I've got the rain coming down on the roof. There's a little beat to it. There's a song in our heart, but it's about us. When we hear that song, we can share it.
Yeah, and it's a very different thing that you're describing than sort of, you know, it's that kind of starting with the inside job. There's something very sort of powerful and accessible about that, rather than sort of thinking, you know, which for some reason has never been all that attractive to me, of starting out about how can I do good in the world. You know, there's something sort of less authentic about that. But what's extraordinary is in allowing the sparkle to come into your eyes, you know, in allowing your heart to open, whatever way that occurs, that's the greatest gift that you can give the world.
Yeah, and it takes you back to that quote about be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I have got a quote from Sid, because he said, love and understanding harmonizes the mind of humanity to its true nature.
Nice.
To its true nature, to our true nature.
Where's that from, Sue?
Missing Me.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if any of the other participants in the call would like to come in. It'd be lovely to hear what you're making of this, how it's landing, or whether it's, you know, prompting any insights or memories for any of you.
I'm happy to share.
Oh, good. Thanks, Annie. Welcome.
Thank you. I've just been sitting, basking in all the imagery and that really strong sense of love that's coming across from both of you this evening. And it's fabulous to hear said out loud what you sometimes mull over in your head and sometimes question when there's a lot going on in your life. So when Sue talked about that rhythm of life, that in and out breath, that flow, it reminded me of how sometimes that feeling of being that awareness, that love itself, can in a breath or a thought disappear for a while. And it's so lovely to hear the human struggle in that and the human strength in it. That's what I've heard this evening. The joy of returning to that love, which never went away in the first place, but we feel separate from it. We feel, you know, like Sue was saying about she'd had a horrible week. And when you have very human things that come in, there is in this conversation this evening, there's a beautiful sense of community that, oh, I am okay. You know, I've got all this going on in the background, whatever that might be, the pandemic, you know, some grief, some family upset, you know, busy day, like you were saying, all of that stuff in form kind of settles. And you just feel so gentle and so open to noticing the snowdrops, noticing the sparkle, and hearing your own song, like Sue said, And I really needed to hear this conversation tonight. So thank you both so much.
Lovely. Thank you, Annie.
Well, I've got a great, I don't know whether you can either in, because I'm actually in the conservatory. It's certainly beating its drum tonight. But that's just reminded me, you know, Annie's there, you know, it's kind of, we need the rain, we need the sun. We need those gloomy days. Like they're all mixed in one, and that's part of life. And I think when we all recognise that, you know, the gloomy day passes, it's like the gloomy thoughts pass, and that we're all right deep inside. We always are. And as the lovely Bill Pettit always says, we're never broken, we never have been, we never will be. And when you really get a sense of that, that's magic in its own right.
Yeah.
And it's you know, I'm looking around, it's just beautiful seeing people's faces. Beautiful. Absolutely. And really special, because this is the moment we have. And for me, there's a little golden thread sending love to all of you.
I appreciate that, Sue. I love that, Sue.
I'll have a bit of that. And I think the other thing, Christian, really is the other bit that I'm realising, you know, even on those days that don't feel quite right, it's, for me, I think I've been looking or just getting a sense of what I appreciate about that moment, or about something that's going on in the day, even if it's something really small. Because when I do, it turns things around, and like I say, things get a whole lot more magnified. And I was just thinking the other thing as well is, because I talk with Annie quite a bit, one of our concerns has been families as well. And I think people realising that there's an energy, there's a formlessness, you know, being able to share some of that with people, you know, because it must be chaos for some people at home. You know, if you've got 2 or 3 children and they're having to be homeschooled, and you've got to do your work, and then you've got to cook your meals. I mean, you know, I don't know what it's like for anybody on the call. You know, it's almost, you know, I just remember somebody saying to me that they were in a space like that, and they just sat down and they got very quiet. And what happened was everybody else started to sit down. Not straight away, but as they kind of felt that energetic, that gentleness, that space, everybody else settled down. And I'd love to be able to tell people about that. And for others, you know, there's some people that's had to do this on their own. And that's a very different place and space for people. It's kind of, you know, need like the reaching out and sometimes saying, you know, I need some support. Like, people hear your call, and, you know, with that, love comes with it. Somebody will get hold of your hand. Not literally at the moment, but virtually. So, you know, magic can happen. You know, people we haven't even been talking to for a while, if we start thinking about them, sometimes they just turn up either by a letter or a card, or they pop up on a screen, and it's, or an email saying, "Can I talk to you?" It's like, you know, love has lots of ways of maneuvering its way around the universe. So, you know, no matter what everybody's circumstances are, it can be the thing that brings the magic to your life right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oops. Just going to pin your video, say something. There was something in that prompted the thought, and it's another wonderful aspect of this for me, that our best self is our authentic self. That, you know, that none of what happens to us through an understanding of the principles is about becoming phony or sanctimonious or self-righteous or a do-gooder. You know, it's none of that. It's just that, and if our best self is our authentic self, there's never any, you know, there's never any effort required. There's never any front required.
No. There's absolutely nowhere to get to. I don't know if Sharon and Barbara and Craig, I know Steve's on the call as well, and Nanny. The principles, the three principles for me, has given me just another language, but also an understanding of who and what I am, and it's all that about speaking from my soul, speaking from my heart. That's all I've ever done. That, you know, that beautiful Irish grandmother and my parents that really guided me through life always pointed me in that direction. It's like, this is who you are. And, you know, the whole idea that I am creating thought. So if I can do that, I can change that, depending, you know, on what's going on. It's just given me a little key to understanding me in this lifetime. And the other bit for me is, you know, my soul will live on, my love will live on, as with all of you. I've met all of you before, somewhere. My heart connects with your heart. I'm speaking to your heart. I'm speaking to your soul. Even the words are just echoes. This whole call is love. And, you know, the whole idea at the beginning I said about hope, just keep moving towards the light.
Yeah.
So that's it in a nutshell.
That's absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. We do have a few minutes left, but if there aren't any other contributions, it might be a nice place to leave it. You've brought us to a lovely place, Sue.
But you know what's sitting there? When we're done, we're done.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, nobody's battering down their microphones, Sue. So I think that might be just a beautiful place to leave it. And what a delightful call. Yeah. Thank you so much.
The lovely thing for me as well, Christian, is we've done it after Burns Night, and finding out yesterday that it was Sid's birthday.
I know.
What better celebration can we have?
Yeah.
With these beautiful people on this call, and we're talking about love.
Yeah.
We're talking about hope.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the rain is definitely coming down here.
Well, listen, I'm going to say thank you very much for a wonderful call. I'm going to